If you remember my review of the OMAC project, I talked a little bit in there about how, at one point, the Justice League came under the corporate ownership of a man named Maxwell Lord. And this resulted in a bunch of relatively unknown heroes joining the League, and the title being turned into a humor book. I may have been a little disparaging of this era on the Justice League.
That fact really couldn't have been further from the truth. Justice League International, as the book came to be called, was a hit, both critics and fans. The book proved to be a shining spot in the early days of the grim and gritty era of comics. The book proved so popular that Justice League expanded into a full line of books, with titles like Justice League Europe, Justice League Task Force, even Justice League Antarctica.
Now, much of this era on the Justice League was co-written by two men, Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis. And both had been longtime veterans of the comic book industry, with Giffen having a lengthy run on the Legion of Superheroes and DeMatteis having a pretty lengthy run on Spider-Man.
In 2003, the duo reunited for a miniseries called formerly known as Justice League, which also proved to be a hit both critically and financially. This was followed in 2005 by I Can't Believe It's Not the Justice League. The duo then went to Marvel to work on another super team, the Defenders. Yeah, that one isn't as fondly remembered.
In between the projects for both Marvel and DC, Giffen and DeMatteis debuted a new series called Heroes Squared, in which a schlubby custodian named Milo suddenly bumped into an alternate version of himself from a different universe, who it turned out was actually a superhero named Captain Valor.
Captain Valor's original Earth had been destroyed, and he wound up moving in with Milo, and hilarity ensued, especially when it was discovered that Milo's longtime girlfriend Stephanie was the alternate universe incarnation of Valor's arch-nemesis, Collisionus.
Originally debuting with Atomica Press, Hero Squared would eventually be picked up by Boom Entertainment. There, the book would get a spin-off title in which Captain Valor's adventures in his previous universe would be detailed along with the rest of his super team, the Planetary Brigade, which is what we're looking at today, the Planetary Brigade.
At the sub-Antarctic base of the Planetary Brigade, known as the Hermitage, Captain Valor begins taking the group's newest member, the Purring Pussycat, to task. He criticizes her for her party girl ways, knowing that she's capable of being so much more. She just plays it off and tries to turn the subject as to why the two were summoned to the Hermitage. The group's resident magic user, Third Eye, has sensed something.
Now, I've kind of already explained Captain Valor to an extent, and we'll be touching on Purring Pussycat's history later. So that leaves us with Third Eye. She was abducted by demons as an infant and actually raised by them. And her story is not entirely dissimilar from Raven of the Teen Titans. A three-eyed raven. I wonder.
As Third Eye begins discussing what it was she sensed, was the opening of a portal, two other team members, Earth Goddess and the Mauve Visitor, are dispatched to the city of New Amsterdam where a group of extraterrestrial creatures have appeared. Earth Goddess begins tearing through the creatures while Visitor chooses to abstain. He doesn't want to ruin his suit or spill his martini.
Earth Goddess is essentially a mixture of three different heroes. Wonder Woman, Storm from the X-Men, and Shazam, aka Captain Marvel. See, Earth Goddess inhabits the body of an average ordinary woman named Lisa, and when she is Earth Goddess, she has a African motif to her body as well, so kind of like Storm. And she draws her power from Gaia, the Earth Goddess, and obviously the Amazon connections with Wonder Woman. Now, the Mauve Visitor, on the other hand, he is a telepathic alien being, much like the Martian Manhunter, except this case, he was actually shot down by the United States government, and his spacecraft was destroyed, this stranding him on Earth. And due to this, he now lives off the government's bills, and this funds his extravagant lifestyle.
Earth Goddess finally hurls one of the creatures at the Visitor. He destroys it with his mantle powers, but it damages his suit in the process. In response, Visitor makes the other creatures all explode, causing them to spill all over Earth Goddess. It's then that Third Eye arrives and informs the others that the creatures are called Devourants, and they're from a dimension called the Barren Realm. The Devourants arrived via the portal Third Eye sensed earlier, but now she's lost the location of the portal. She doesn't know where he ran off to. The trio teleport back to the Hermitage to learn more. Left behind, one man looks on in horror.
The Maw visitor arrives back at the Hermitage just as Captain Valor is leaving to go help Grim Knight. Obviously, Grim Knight is kind of analogous to Batman, though he is also analogous to a rather obscure DC Comics hero, the Shining Knight, who is an Arthurian legend type character. In this case, with Grim Knight, he also has a Arthurian ties in that he wields the sword Excalibur and rides atop a talking Pegasus named Guinevere.
Meanwhile, the horrified man from before stands on the side of a bridge. Despite pleas from the police, he hurls himself over. Much to his chagrin, he survives the fall. Back with Captain Valor, he arrives just as Grim Knight is tossed through the air by something. Knight immediately tells Valor to back off. He didn't need help, he just discovered that a casino had been robbed by two villains, Drama Queen and Roid Rage. Valor steps up and confronts the two villains by criticizing Drama Queen's appearance. Her costumes keep getting skimpier and skimpier. However, they get interrupted by the sudden appearance of another Devourant. Drama Queen actually steps up and uses her Cosmic Caterwaul on the monster. It doesn't really work. The two villains flee as Knight draws Excalibur and attacks. It too doesn't work. Captain Valor then sweeps in and draws the attention of the Devourant. Back at the Hermitage, Goddess emerges and chats briefly with Third Eye. Third Eye says she needs to be alone to track the portal, so Goddess leaves to shower. In order to shower, Goddess reverts back to her civilian identity of Lisa. Lisa's upset as she has no memories of what's just happened. Goddess initiated the transformation just as Lisa was preparing to ask Captain Valor out. Third Eye senses that Valor and Knight are fighting the Devourant. Goddess transforms back into herself, and Third Eye briefly takes control of Goddess's body in order to better detect the portal. Third Eye manages to track the portal's energy signature to the river. The two of them split as the Third Eye gives Earth Goddess the ability to track the portal.
Yeah, if you haven't figured it out already, the suicidal man from before is the portal that Third Eye is trying to locate. Now where is he?
The portal is at a local bar trying to drown his sorrows, or poison himself, I'm not entirely sure. A group in the bar accost him, so he explains himself. He then starts falling ill. He apologizes as he collapses to the floor. Only screaming then comes from the bar.
And it's at this point that we meet our final prominent Planetary Brigade member, known as Mr. Brilliant. Mr. Brilliant is a super genius who has a special chair called the Utility Chair that he can use as a weapon. Unfortunately, he's spent so much time in this chair that he's become morbidly obese to the point that he can't even walk.
At his comic shop, Brilliant argues with two boys over whether or not he actually is Mr. Brilliant. Eventually, he chases the two out with the utility chair. It's then the purring pussycat teleports in. She rents the room above the shop. And she flirts with Brilliant when the two notice a commotion outside. The two exit the shop to find the portal spewing forth a group of monsters. Kat begins dreaming of her popularity increasing as she leaps into action. Brilliant places a call to the Hermitage and follows it by opening up a barrage of gunfire from his chair. It proves to be of little use as the demons keep coming out. It's then that Earth Goddess arrives, much to Brilliant's chagrin as he wanted Third Eye. The trio of them begin arguing over who panicked first as Third Eye finally arrives. The utility chair then manages to detect the location of the portal. One final Devourant has entered through the man, and he's now carrying him off. Brilliant manages to contact Valor and Knight, who begin flying over while arguing over whether or not people will think they're gay. Meanwhile, more Devourants begin pouring out of the man. Valor and Knight then drop the Devourant from before onto the Cthulhuid. Third Eye lashes out at Valor and Knight. The only one who can close the portal is her, and now it's trapped under a giant Devourant. Valor then lifts the creature up so Third Eye can search for the portal. Meanwhile, the Devourants begin grouping together to form their next move. Third Eye then begins explaining the situation. The portal has no control over his actions. He's being used by a pan-dimensional devouring entity called the Entirety. The Devourants are gathering in order to form the Entirety's true form. Third Eye will have to deal with the portal while the Brigade takes on the Entirety, though Brilliant would rather run away. The Brigade begins occupying the Entirety's attention while Third Eye talks to the portal, a man named Henry O'Brien. She knows he left his wife and daughter out of fear for their safety. Third Eye explains that Henry has become a portal for the Entirety and she needs to be shut down. She explains that she doesn't like doing what she has to do. Henry says he understands, so Third Eye kills the man with a psychic blast. This causes the Entirety to vanish, along with the other Devourants. Afterwards, Third Eye steps down from the Brigade, ashamed of what she did. She then goes to visit Henry's wife and daughter, only to get cold feet before telling them of Henry's death. Grim Knight visits with Third Eye as she walks away from the O'Brien home. He says that the Brigade voted to allow her back if she wants, with Valor being the only vote against. The others know that she killed Henry for the right reasons. Third Eye tells Grim Knight off and leaves.
And now we reach kind of a unique point here. You see, this compilation not only includes the initial 2-issue Planetary Brigade miniseries, but it also includes the 3-issue follow-up series, Planetary Brigade Origins. And yeah, it's basically Justice League Beyond all over again.
Out at a top-secret base located in the American Southwest, the limousine of Stephen Chatwicks III comes to witness the demonstration of a perpetual energy generator developed by young prodigy Edison Kessler. As Edison shows off the operating room for the generator, the two are approached by immortal super soldier Fighting Man. Fighting Man takes Edison and Stephen to task, pointing out that neither of them have been tested in battle. Edison points out that he didn't develop a weapon and immediately begins a countdown.
Even though that's supposed to be an energy generator, not a bomb.
Meanwhile, twin brothers Arthur and Julius Master look on from afar. Their father was executed for being a spy, and ever since then, Julius has sworn vengeance on the American government. So he plans to strap himself to the device to prevent it from being tested.
Again, it's not a bomb. Even though it kind of looks like one.
Arthur tries to stop Julius, and the two begin fighting as the clock slowly counts down. They're noticed, but there's only 6 seconds left on the clock, and it would take 42 seconds to reset it. Shock of shock, the device winds up exploding, and the radiation emitted causes the twins to merge into one being. Fighting Man leads a group to confront this new being, while Chatwick ducks away. The merged being has twice the brain power as the average man, and twice an array of new powers. He dubs himself Mr. Master, and telepathically summons a group of mutated prairie dogs to attack the soldiers.
Whoa. Is anyone else having Night of the Lepus flashbacks?
The attack is interrupted by the appearance of the Earth Goddess. Mr. Master offers her the chance to rule by his side. She rejects it, and he blasts her into the side of a mountain. It's then that Guinevere arrives, and Stephen Chatwicks, a.k.a. Grim Knight, hops on. Also, the action is heard by Captain Valor, who instantly flies off to join the fight. Valor arrives to save Grim Knight, much to Grim Knight's chagrin. Valor then whips up a small tornado to take out the prairie dogs. Meanwhile, Goddess wakes up in the home of the Mauve visitor. He's lived at the base ever since the army shot down his rocket. The two then rejoin the battle with Mr. Master just as he squares off with Fighting Man. Also, the prairie dogs return, and Visitor uses his powers to knock out the rodents, while Earth Goddess kicks Master in the jubblies. Afterwards, Fighting Man rips in to Knight, Valor, and Goddess. He accuses them of trying to recruit him into a new super team. He swears allegiance to the American army and storms off. By the way, none of the heroes actually had any idea of teaming up, though Edison does think it's a good idea. Everyone just laughs at him and flies away.
I know I'm stating the obvious here, but yeah, Edison Tesla is a pre-utilitarian Mr. Brilliant.
Sometime later, Mr. Master will launch another attack on the Brigade, this time at their first headquarters, the Tower of Power. This time, however, Mr. Master brought backup.
Mr. Master's evil supergroup is called the Planetary Brigands, and the lineup consists of Purring Pussycat. She has yet to join the Brigade at this point. A giant mermaid named, Mermaid. Excretia, a being of intergalactic sewage. Lord Toxic, who weaponizes poisons. And another practitioner known as the Janetta Witch.
The Brigands get the jump on the Brigade, who, as usual, are having another argument. And Excretia smothers Captain Valor, much to the disgust of his sidekick, Spunky. Meanwhile, Mermaid takes out Earth Goddess, while the Happy Hunter manages to pin Lord Toxic to a wall.
If you're wondering why I don't really talk much about Spunky or the Happy Hunter, it's because this is really their only appearance of note.
Janetta Witch uses her power to disorient the Mauve visitor, causing him to spill his non-alcoholic martini and throw up. Mr. Master, meanwhile, makes his way through the tower to a special room. The room contains the Empyrean chalice. a magically imbued cup that grants one wish to whomever drinks from it. Valor pieces together what Mr. Master is up to and rushes back to stop him, while Grim Knight squares off with Pussycat. She launches full on at night when everything pauses. It turns out this wasn't an actual fight, it was an episode of the animated Planetary Brigade television series. The episode is being watched by Visitor and Pussycat. She's upset at her depiction. She points out that she never attacked Grim Knight. She actually tipped the brigade off to Master's plan. Mauve Visitor begins fixing up another martini and begins asking Pussycat about her past and what led her to betray Mr. Master. Pussycat explains that she was born in Brooklyn and endured daily abuse from the kids at her school and her father, who blamed her for the death of her mother. One day she decided to end her life. It was then that Mr. Master appeared. He offered to help her achieve her true potential, and she left with him. As they left, he ordered his prairie dogs to attack Pussycat's father. Mr. Master took Pussycat aboard his base, the Mastroid, and introduced her to the rest of the brigands. Realizing who he is, Pussycat begins backtracking away from Mr. Master. However, he explains that he's actually trying to make the world a better place for people like them. Mr. Master took Pussycat under his wing and taught her to use her abilities to their highest potential. Unfortunately, over that time, Master also began to lose his grip on reality. He eventually struck a deal with an alien race to control the population of the Earth like a group of puppets. Pussycat tried to talk to the rest of the brigands, but they only distrusted her even more, leaving her no choice but to tip off the brigade. Except, before that could be done, the brigands got teleported away by Third Eye. Third Eye appeared to warn the brigade of the coming of a pan-dimensional threat, the Celestial Speed Skater.
What? I don't think I really need to explain that.
Sometime later, the brigade took on another threat to the Earth. This was a being called Aestheticon, the Painter, who traveled from planet to planet, repainting its reality to suit his artistic tastes. The painting Aestheticon is doing to the Earth is beginning to affect the Brigadiers in separate ways. Valor and Earth Goddess can feel their powers slowly fading, so Captain Valor tries a last-ditch attack on Aestheticon's robot dog, Patron. It's destroyed, but Aestheticon only reassembles the dog with his painting abilities. The rest of the brigade attack Aestheticon, but it has really no effect. That is until Third Eye reappears. Third Eye makes Aestheticon an offer. She'll open a special portal to another universe. This universe would be virtually uninhabited, so Aestheticon could paint the whole thing to his liking. Aestheticon accepts the offer and leaves through the portal. Afterwards, Third Eye explains to the brigade that where she really sent Aestheticon to was a living universe, and the two will be locked in combat for roughly a quadrillion years. These events have all been witnessed by Mr. Master and his new girlfriend, Caligulus.
Caligulus, if you recall, is Captain Valor's arch-enemy, and in the universe of Heroes Squared, she is also Milo's longtime girlfriend, Stephanie. Now, this duo has a third person with them. Who is it?
The third member is revealed to be Purring Pussycat. She's left the Planetary Brigade due to the discovery of a secret from her past, a secret that Mr. Master just does not want to talk about. Master goes on to explain his plan. He's aware of the loosening grip on his sanity. It's due to the strain of having both Arthur and Julius Master's minds in his. So, he's had Caligulus construct a machine that will return him to the state of being both Arthur and Julius Master. Then, all three will get married. Master gives his fiancée a kiss and enters the machine. Caligulus flips the switch. The machine works, and both Arthur and Julius Masters emerge. They die almost instantly. Caligulus goes on to explain that death was the only way to end Master's suffering. Caligulus then turns on Pussycat, who runs away to an escape pod. Pussycat takes off for the Hermitage. The brigade, though, is not welcoming her with open arms, especially since they recognize the craft as belonging to Caligulus. It's then that Mr. Brilliant steps up. He points out the brigade drove Pussycat away, particularly both Knight and Valor. Pussycat deserved to be treated with dignity, because he loves her, even if she was born a man.
Yeah, so it turns out that Purring Pussycat is really a transgender. Look, I'm not opposed to the idea of a transgendered superhero. That's perfectly fine in my book. But this comes across as just being a little forced. I mean, earlier in this comic there was this secret that Mr. Master was not too keen on revealing to anyone, and, well, that just kind of screams as much as a tip-off.
The Brigade return to the Hermitage, where Pussycat warns them about Collisionus' plans. However, the Brigade's computers show that Collisionus' vessel is leaving Earth's atmosphere. But they know she'll be back.
And so ends Planetary Brigade. How was it? Well, I think this is a really, really good example of how to write a superhero humor book. There's some very pointed dialogue. I think the characters act very realistic, even more realistic than other so-called realistic superheroes. Now, I will reiterate that, yes, this is actually a humor book. I obviously couldn't quite get into the jokes. It's tough to review a humor book in the sense because you can't just repeat the jokes or explain the jokes, because then they may not just be funny. You kind of have to experience it for yourself. That being said, there are some drawbacks here. Namely, the constant art changes on the book. I mean, issue 1 has like 6 different artists alone. It really, really makes me wish that Giffen and DeMatteis's longtime art collaborator, Kevin Maguire, had done the artwork for this. And yeah, the fact that Maguire did not do the artwork in Planetary Brigade is why I didn't mention his contribution to the Justice League book. Also, I said this before, Purring Pussycat's revelation that she's transgender is just out of nowhere. It just seemed forced to the point of a joke. There was this running thread in the book about that Mr. Brilliant was in love with Purring Pussycat. At the same time, Mo Visitor was kind of teasing him, trying to turn him gay, for lack of a better term, and turns out that Mr. Brilliant is in love with a woman who used to be a man. Yeah, it's not a very good joke. Also, I really have to criticize the layout of this. I don't mind the idea of including the Origins miniseries in there, but I really wish they had laid this out in a manner so that the Origin, for at least the first 2 parts of the Origin, were actually first, then the 2-part miniseries. I'm not entirely sure where the 3rd part of the Origins series is supposed to take place. It seems to hint at the notion that this is after the initial Planetary Brigade miniseries, but I found nothing to confirm that. And so, overall, I am going to have to reluctantly give Planetary Brigade a C. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.